Mhm. Bill, I got your email. I'll talk to Mike about that and get back to you, okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Roy, Michelle, how you doing? Good to see you.
Nice to be seen. Glad to be here.
Hi, Chris.
Jimmy Anderson, are we gonna get to see his face tonight? Or this is just a voiceover for Jimmy?
I'm going with face.
Hold on.
Can't stop the meeting without you, handsome.
There you go.
You're in high
All right.
demand.
Okay, it is 6:30, and in accordance with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, the Tuesday, May 6, 2025, 6:30 p.m. public meeting of the Wrentham Select Board shall be conducted remotely. The public is invited to join via Zoom, and the instructions are on our website. As a preliminary matter, this is Select Board Chair Chris Gallo. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. I ask that everyone else please remain on mute unless you're an active part of the conversation, as there tends to be some background noise. And please don't take offense if we mute you. So at this time, James Anderson,
Anderson here.
Bill Harrington,
Harrington here.
Michelle Rouse,
Rouse here.
Roy Lamoth.
Lamoth here.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Town Manager Mike King,
Present.
Assistant Town Manager Greg Enos,
Affirmative.
Executive Assistant Amanda Vazzapolo.
Present.
And we have other important dignitaries on here as well. I see that we have one or both of our chiefs. We have our Director of Planning and Economic Development. We have our assessor. We have a lot of people. So we appreciate everyone taking the time to be here. We're going to run as efficient and effective as a meeting as possible. I will start trying to be efficient and effective with the announcements. And I would ask our clerk, Selectman Harrington, to read in the announcements.
Yes, Mr. Chair, the agenda item announcements. MassDOT is installing a crosswalk in the vicinity of Hamilton Road and Hidden Meadows Lane. Construction is anticipated to start May 6th. The annual Stage 2 water ban is now in effect through September 30th. No non-essential outdoor watering use between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Non-essential uses subject to mandatory irrigation of lawns and landscaping using sprinklers or automatic irrigation systems, washing of vehicles except in a commercial car wash or as necessary for operator safety, washing of exterior building surfaces, parking lots, driveways, or sidewalks except as necessary to apply surface treatments such as paint, preservation, stucco, pavement, or cement, and filling of swimming pools. The above mentioned non-essential uses may only be conducted between the hours of 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. As part of the Route 1A slip ramp project, MassDOT will be conducting rock drilling and blasting starting April 29th, 2025. All lanes on 495 northbound and southbound will be closed for approximately 10 minutes for safety while blasting occurs. It is anticipated that this will happen twice per day at approximately 11 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. The road will be closed using local and state police. Open burning season has now concluded. No outside fires are permitted. As an alternative to burning, the brush dump is available for residents for disposal of certain items. The brush dump located at the Department of Public Works, 360 Taunton Street, is routinely open on the first and third Saturdays of every month from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. However, as conditions allow, the facility will be open during normal business hours of the Public Works Department. Residents should call 508-384-5477 before loading their vehicle and coming to the facility to ensure they will have access. The DPW is open Monday to Thursday, 7:30 to 5:30. Black Earth Compost. The first 100 Wrentham residents to sign up for a subscription will receive a free compost starter kit sponsored by the Wrentham DPW and provided by Black Earth Compost. This includes a curbside bin and compostable liners of $36 value. Black Earth Compost offers every other week pickup subscription option, $89 for 6 months or $16.99 a month. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. A lot of announcements, a lot of great stuff happening. Sounds like a fantastic deal on Black Earth. I may have to take them up on that. Let's get going. I apologize. I think I missed recognizing we have Rob Scotton on the call. We have Tom Maloney, who's our new planning board chairman. So if I missed you, Bill Kaspar is here from the ZBA. I apologize, and I will send you a formal apology via email at your convenience. But just know everyone's welcome. It's great to see everybody. Now let's get going. We got a lot of new business here. But before we do that, I have to go to tab 2 and I have to approve the minutes. So at this time, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the April 15, 2025 open session meeting minutes.
So moved.
Motion made by Selectman Lamoth with a second by Selectman Harrington. Any further discussion? Being none, we'll do a roll call vote. Selectwoman Rouse.
Yes.
Selectman Anderson.
Anderson's a yes.
Selectman Harrington.
Harrington, yes.
Oh, sorry, Bill, you broke up. Was that a yes?
Harrington, yes.
All right, that might be, it might be me, sorry. And Selectman Lamoth.
Lamoth, yes.
Okay, Gallo, yes. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, looks like we're going to go to tab number 3 now. Let me just pull my tabs up. And tab number 3 is a special one-day license application. Shoveltown Brewery, White Barn Farm. We know the drill. We've done this a bunch. I do have a note though. I have to correct the motion in the packet. I think it was wrong. The event is on June 7th, not June 6th. So when I go to do the motion, please make sure I do that. At this time, it looks like we have a complete application in our packets. I'm assuming we have with us, looks like we have Frank Altieri from Shoveltown Brewery and Chris Cantliner of White Barn Farm. Gentlemen, you know, we've done this a bunch with you. Is there anything that you'd like to address the board on regarding this particular one-day license? Are they here? Chris and or Frank?
I'm here, Katie Pearl, on behalf of White Barn Farm.
Hi, Katie.
Hi.
Anything to add? We're looking at an application in our packet. We understand that before it gets to us, you've already talked to the chiefs of police and fire. We've gotten all the necessary sign-offs from the town departments as needed. Mike, is that correct? Shake your head yes if it is. Yes, it is. So Katie, what can you tell the board quickly about this event? And is there anything special that we need to know?
There's nothing really different about this event. It's going to be a film festival for trail running. So there's going to be 8 short films throughout the evening. And then we just brought in Shoveltown once again to kind of enhance the evening.
Great. Okay. I'm going to go, instead of going through the whole board, if any board members, we've done this so many times, if any board members have any questions, do you mind just asking Katie through me directly?
Mr. Vice Chair?
Anyone?
Mr. Vice Chair?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Mr. Vice Chair, can you hear me?
Oh,
Yes, I can.
he's a chair, Jim.
But Jim,
Oh, yeah.
hey Jim, I answer to anything. So yes, I can hear you. And what can we do for you this evening?
Well, I was actually looking for you, Michelle.
I was confused. I was
No, my bad. No, Mr. Chairman, I would just make sure that the public safety chiefs are on board with this. That's all.
Okay, as I said before, my understanding is that before it comes to us, it wouldn't come to us unless they both signed off on it. But to your point, Chief Marino, Chief McGrath, you guys are on. I see you. Do you approve this? Is there anything we need to talk about with you, gentlemen?
Nothing with the police department.
Okay.
Nothing for the fire department. Is this still in the field, or are they going to be in the barn for the movie festival?
This is going to be in the field with a screen on the barn.
Understood. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, chiefs. Selectman Anderson, does that satisfy your request?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Awesome. Okay, at this time, if there's no more further discussion, the chair would entertain a motion, or vice chair would entertain a motion to approve the special one-day license application for Shoveltown Brewery for the film event at White Barn Farm located at 431 South Street on June 6, 2025, from 5 to 10 p.m. and to authorize the use of electronic signatures.
Mr.
Don't we
Chairman?
need to change the date?
I'm
Mr. Chairman?
sorry. Yes, I accept your friendly amendment to June 7th, 2025, Selectman Harrington and Selectman Anderson and everybody
So
else.
moved.
Thank you. Second,
Second.
was a motion made by
Second.
Selectman Anderson, second by Selectwoman Rouse. Any further discussion? Being none, we'll do a roll call vote. Selectwoman Rouse,
Rouse, yes.
Selectman Anderson,
Anderson's a yes.
Selectman Harrington. Selectman Harrington,
He disappeared.
he's frozen.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Selectman Lamoth,
Lamoth, yes.
Gallo, yes, motion carries 5-0. Okay, great job. That's tab 3. Looks like we're going to tab 4. Tab 4 is a vote to sign an amended flammable storage permit for Wholesome NER Inc. at 400 Green Street. We have a flammable storage permit in our packet, and with us, we have attendees Chris Donner, Civil and Environmental Consultants. We have the whole team rep and Fire Chief Tony Marino. We're looking at a completed packet. Do any of the applicants or Chief Marino want to add anything before we turn it over to the board for questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, this is Chris Donner with Civil and Environmental Consultants. Just to provide a little background on why we're submitting the amended application, we're not requesting any change to the maximum volume that was previously approved by the board. The original land license was dated, I think, 2006. So we're just updating that to reflect the current conditions and make it more standard. And I've worked with Chief Marino to make sure that we do that prior to sending this application to before you today.
Great, thank you for the clarification. Welcome to the meeting. Chief Marino, do you have anything to address to the board before I turn it over for questions or comments?
Yes, this precipitated based on them wanting to apply for an additional 30,000 gallons of liquid asphalt. They removed a 20,000 gallon tank of latex. And so this was a lot of housekeeping to make sure we understood what was on premise and that they could maintain their 208,000 on property going forward. You'll see another application for license for that tank at another meeting. This is just the pre to that.
Okay, so you have no issues with this?
No, we worked diligently with the developer and the property owner and the engineers to make sure we had everything properly accounted for that's currently on property.
Great,
So,
Chief. Any of the board members? Does any of the board members have any questions or comments for either the chief of fire or the applicant this evening?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, none. Roy, none. Jen,
None. Straightforward.
none. Okay, great. So at this time, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the amended license for Holkeem, and I apologize if I'm screwing this up. NER Incorporated, located at 400 Green Street, and authorize the use of electronic signatures.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Selectman Anderson, second by Selectwoman
Second.
House.
Third,
Any further discussion? Being none, we'll do a roll call vote. Selectwoman Rouse,
Rouse, yes.
Selectman Anderson,
Anderson's a yes.
Selectman Harrington,
Harrington, yes.
Selectman Lamoth,
Lamoth, yes.
Gallo, yes. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you for coming, Chris. Have a wonderful evening. Okay, at this time, we're gonna go to tab 5.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, So we're going to talk about this land, our right of first refusal for the purchase of 2095 West Street. We have a bunch of documentation in our packet, as well as we have developer and Wrentham resident Howard Bailey with us as well, who's going to kind of walk us through the plan and what he's trying to accomplish there. And just so the board knows, and the public as well, we've also invited a member from each of the appropriate committees. Open space, we have a letter from them. We have a letter from the Pawtucket Water Supply Board that Mike King will explain, a letter of support for Blackstone River Watershed to exercise the right of first refusal. We have letter of support for Charles River Watershed, letter of support for Conservation Commission, letter of support Open Space, letter of support Planning Board. So at this time, Mike, do you think it makes sense for us to listen to Howard's presentation first, or do you want to provide an overview? Bless you.
I would recommend starting with Mr. Bailey's presentation first.
All right, I'll take that recommendation. Mr. Bailey, it's great to see you. Welcome to the select board meeting this evening. We turn the floor over to you, sir.
Hi, and thank you for having me at this particular meeting. So, as you know, the process of 61, in this case, it's a 61B, was strictly forestry, not agricultural. According to the assessors map, there's 65 acres that the Cook family owns on this particular property. We entered into a purchase and sale agreement for the price of $2.5 million. It has always been my intent to only do 15 estate, what I'm considering estate lots, because they're all relatively large. The average lot size in there is going to be in the area of 6 acres. I have a plan that you can put up on the screen that will show how these 15 acres lots will be positioned on the property. There will be no public streets in this 15 house lots. There is a lot of existing street frontage, and in an attempt to keep West Street as rural that it looks like now, we have placed a lot of them further back on the site, and most of them will not be visible from the street.
Mr. Bailey, can I just ask you to pause for 1 second? I want to see if we can get that. Oh, it is up. Okay. So I don't know if you can see this, but we have your preliminary site plan up, and I'd like you to walk us through positioning from the West Street perspective, which is at the north or top of our page. Yeah, I think that's Amanda moving the cursor. And if you could, if you could just walk us through the placement of these these prospective house lots, and then obviously, like you said, it seems like they're all going to be private roads. We'd like to know what price point you're targeting, just kind of the basics of your intent with this development.
Okay, so I will start at the further end, coming from Blackberry Hill Road up to Route 121. So there is one lot up in the upper corner that sets up on a high knoll that is currently existing there, and one single driveway to that property. Then there is a gap between that and the next lot, which will allow us to do a common drive for 2 lots that go way back into the property. And those will be really quite large lots. Then continuing, there is one lot after that that is going to sit back off the street, probably 150 to maybe 200 feet. And then continuing up the road, West Street, towards Route 121, there are 3 homes that will be really the only visible ones, which is right across from the existing Cook farm on the opposite side of the road. That's where their vegetable barn is, over there. Where those 3 houses are, there are 3 pretty severely deteriorated buildings that have, 2 of them are completely collapsed, and the third one is a more modern day garage that is about to collapse. Two of them at least represent some risk that if somebody went in there, that they could be dangerous. Then continuing down the road towards 121, you'll see where I have frontages that have nothing on them, because just before you get to what I call the Bonolo property, I have a common drive going in there servicing 4 houses that will be constructed on currently 17 acres of land that my family still owns. So those 4 will be not even on the Cook property. So then coming back up to, there'll be one, those 4 will be served by a common drive. The other remaining 4 lots will also be served by a common drive in the middle of the property that right there. That's good job, who was ever doing that. So those 4 homes will be far off the road. And I might add that the zoning in this case allows for common driveways up to 4 lots with a special permit. So there'll be a little bit of a process that we have to do for those 4, the other 4, and the other 2. So in end result, with the frontage total of about approximately 2,300 square feet of land, we'll really only be seeing 4 homes. And I've done this before, so I think everybody's familiar with Joe's Rock. I have 3 houses right up onto Joe's Rock that have 1 common drive for 3 homes up there. The McCormicks actually use that road sometimes to access their backyard. So you guess you could say it's for 4 of them, but they're really nicely placed, nicely done. If you weren't looking for them, you wouldn't even see any of them. And again, this 65 acres, we are adding 17 acres to this. And we anticipate that the total disturbance that we may cause between septics, houses, and driveways is probably in the area of 20 acres plus or minus. And so you can see adding 17 that outside of the 65 that currently exist, we may be disturbing, in total 5 acres, but there is going to be disturbance. I'm excited, and I'm actually kind of proud that the town is finally deciding to go after some of these properties. In my own personal opinion, I just don't think that this property is worth the total money that the town wants to spend, especially in light of the fact that we're only going to be doing 15 homes on this total property that's going to approach 90 acres of land. And I just feel that I think it's terrific that they're getting all these support from all these other grants and monies and all that stuff. It's still going to cost the town some money. My personal feeling, knowing every piece of property in this town, there are 3 other parcels that I just think are much more valuable to the town. One of them being a big field that everybody's familiar with on Jenks Street. The other one would be a nice large piece of property that's really more suitable for development on the corner of Summer Street and Spring Street. And of course, the next one, I'll call it kind of a pun, but the Big Apple in the room is the Big Apple. Those 3 parcels are probably at some point going to hit the market. And I just feel like we're leveraging our ability to even go after any of these 3 parcels. I would love to get on some of these committees myself, but I know everybody's going to say it's a conflict of commission, as it was when I sat on the conservation commissions years ago before we really even had one. So, again, with all that said, there's also the economics of a project like this. These houses that we're going to be built here will probably range in the lowest end is minimum is $1 million. The high end could be upwards of $2 million. And I just think that the types of vehicles that these people drive with excise taxes, the revenue from the houses, the lack that the majority of these people will be a good chance that they're going to send their children to private school, although King Philip's ratings are extremely good, and I'm very proud of that situation. I graduated from there myself. And I just wish the committees were in the past this aggressive on other pieces. We every bit of open space that is along West Street at this point, with the exception of the federal land and that the state owns some of it, was gotten in the hands of the town for $0 from projects that we did. And I'll start with the far end, which was the Whipple subdivision, the Oak Hill subdivision, the Blackberry subdivision, the Hillside subdivision. And I just think that what we're doing here is really no different than what we've done in the past, with the exception that it was all gotten in the hands of the town for free. With that said, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
All right, I want to sum it up quickly. I'm going to open up to my board to ask you any questions, and then we'll kind of go from there. So it seems like, in your opinion, Mr. Bailey, this is a relatively low impact development, 90 acres almost, 15 houses. Quick math is approximately a house every 6 acres. There's tax revenue component here, low end of $1 million resale, high end of 2. Take a rough average, maybe the houses would pay 15 grand each in taxes. Mike King, you can let me know if that's a fair number. 15 times 15 is 225. So looking at, $225,000 in additional annual tax revenue. And in your opinion, this is a relatively low impact development. Is that a fair assessment, Mr. Bailey?
It is, absolutely is. And that's not considering, granted, we're probably going to have some grants and additional money go into this, but the debt service that we're going to have for I don't know how many years to pay off whatever share of the town of Wrentham will have to purchase this property, if not developed.
Okay, thank you for that. Excellent presentation. At this time, I'm going to open it up to my board, Mr. Bailey, to ask you any questions or comments that they might have. And we're going to start with Select Woman Rouse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Bailey, for that presentation. Very helpful. A lot of my questions were related to the driveways. I know that lot 14 and 15 is almost a half a mile. So good to know these are all private driveways and not needing services from the town. I do have one additional question. You did cover everything. And Mike, was Chris on, just to confirm, that 225, 250 amount for tax revenue for these houses estimated?
I believe that's a reasonable conservative estimate. Yes.
Okay. And so, Mr. Bailey, I just have one question for you. In terms of the acreage, that 17 that you're adding to this of yours, do you have other acreage that abuts this development?
I don't have any more that abuts it.
Okay, so that would be the total that you own.
Yeah, only others that would abut is Saddleback. The way we did this before we had zoning in place, we kind of, much like Lantern Lane, which is another project that we did where we really circumvented zoning, and we did the same with Saddleback. All that land is restricted to some form of conditions.
Perfect. And then the houses on West Street that are along West Street, the frontage from the street to the home is approximately, what are you estimating?
Well, the frontage is required in the zoning is 200 foot with a 40-foot minimum setback. And the side yard is 30 foot. Those are going to be relatively close because of some wetlands that start to creep up in the rear. But I'm going to push them back as far as I reasonably can, and with some asking help from the Conservation Commission to help us bring this project to the fullest advantage for everybody. I think the further back I can set them, I will.
Okay. No further questions for me at this point.
Okay, thank you. Selectman Anderson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Hey, Howard, Jim Anderson here. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Good, thanks. So Howard, just a quick question. Out of all that property that you're looking to develop, is there anything left that can be used for either open space or maybe used for conservation?
So the rear of that whole property, if you look at that plan, there's a large portion of wetlands. And the thing that I'm being particularly careful with, as we've done in all of the developments, we all feed off the gas lines. That's a main transmission line, not for gas, but as we call it, it's an animal corridor. So we're paying close attention to make sure that all of the migratory animals, creatures and everything can still get through the property. And in a lot of cases, hikers will be able to as well. But there's wetlands that do prevent us from getting near them. And the gas lines are a really good source for connecting all these different parcels up.
Okay, thanks, Howard. I appreciate it. And I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Selectman Innes and Selectman Harrington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Amanda, can you put that map back?
Yeah.
All right, so now, Mr. Bailey, this question is for you. On West Street, you've got lot 9. And then you've got a big, long driveway that goes up to lot 14 and 15.
That's correct.
What is behind that? It says site where it's a lighter green. What is that property and what what's behind
So
it?
there's a beaver impoundment that has caused that whole area to become flooded.
Okay.
And that's what that is. So if you were to, looking at the site, to the left, it joins up with Whipple's subdivision over there. So, and then you have one other large parcel that is the gentleman that has a long driveway that went in right at the gas lines. So that, all of that open space land, and then if you can see the little dash red lines, those are one gas line there, and then beyond that light green is another gas line. So there's 2 gas lines that merge and cross West Street and go up through the Oak Hill development.
Okay. All right. So my question, I guess, is when you're on West Street and you're looking at the property, lot 9 would be on the right-hand side.
Yes.
How much property is from the street to the right-hand side of the driveway all the way up to that property, to that, the light green?
So the street to the houses is.
Yeah.
So it's approximately 5, 7, 9, probably 1,100 feet, 1,200 feet.
And how much on the left side of the driveway up to that light green shaded area? How many acres would you guesstimate that to be?
Oh, geez, I don't know offhand, but if your question is, that's gonna remain all wooded though.
But I mean, 10 acres, 12, just a ballpark.
Yeah, it's probably all of, probably 10, somewhere around that area.
So my question is, can you move house lot number 9 to the other side of the driveway, leave the driveway accessible, move lot 15 and 14, meld those 2 in there somewhere, and donate the rest of that back to the town as open space and build a trail that would connect up into Hales Pond?
Well, I can certainly do my best to connect it, because there's a couple of things that take place here. So out in the middle of that green, it almost looks like a chiseled head there that's upland right there, where it's not the light green to the.
Okay, yep.
That is landlocked. That's landlocked by another descendant of the Cooks. They unless they had a helicopter, they have no way of getting to that. And that's approximately a 10 to 12 acre parcel. So, you know, I could pull those little houses, and this is where working with some of the open space committees, which I welcome, or the Conservation Commission, this is not an in stone plan. It's a concept to let you know what our mindset is leaning towards. And I would welcome the hope to make it what I consider better. Again, you know,
So my question is, if you kick those two houses to the other side of the driveway,
Yep.
you could have a small parking area on West Street, and you could have a trail that came up all the right-hand side, all along that property line, up into that mucky wet stuff, around that jog and over to Hales Pond, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's a trail in there somewhere.
there's provisions for all of it.
Huh?
That, because I did the Hales Pond project, so.
Right.
So I'm very familiar. I mean, it's beautiful waterfall, there's different things, and when we built all of these, we did do all kinds of trails, but they've
Yeah.
never been maintained or kept up, so I'm not even sure you could find them. The trails that you might find is off of, spurs off of the gas lines. And that's the main reason that I kind of put those two houses, was to get beyond that gas line, so if people came through, they're not gonna be any fences, they're not gonna be any signs, there's, you know.
Mhm.
That's the main reason, to try to bring those two forward, putting them on West Street, because as you go to that lot 9, that's a high ridge that climbs up there. And I'm gonna that's why the driveway comes in where it is and then goes downhill through the middle of it, because it's, I'm not dealing with grades larger than 10%. And
Right.
some of those grades are 15 and 20%.
I'm just thinking outside the box. If
No,
the
I-
town was to get a 15-acre parcel at your expense, that they could build a beautiful little trail on,
I
with no
think
money
we
out of
absolutely,
CPC funds,
yeah.
it would be maybe maybe open space and conservation, would look kindly on it. But
No,
again,
I think if there's a way possible and we have rights of way, I just think that you're gonna have that one driveway and you can see it, when the first gas line is, then you see that clearing where you can see the house and it gets lighter. That's the
Right.
gentleman that owns the long driveway that, I'm trying to think of who the people were, but they had an old barn and a house there. He tore it down and put a beautiful home up, call it a McMansion if you want. Has the gates at the end of the driveway. He owns the majority of that land, and if we could acquire some way of getting from us to the Whipple project, then yeah, you'd have a beautiful resource there, especially linking up the two gas lines at that point.
yeah, just a thought.
I know, I think it's terrific, and that's why I would welcome the input and help from conservation and the open space committees in town.
And maybe we could approach the family, unless they want to buy a helicopter to access the other piece, we could buy that reasonably and add that to the trail.
Yep. No, I think there's lots of options, because now that Whipple piece wraps all around that entire property. It goes into that same wetland, but there was some of the history was there was an old mill that made furniture and nails out there at that property. That
Alright.
was years before any of us existed out here.
So it sounds like Mr. Bailey is very open to suggestions like this one. I don't think he can commit or doesn't want to commit to anything, right? But I think he's very open to committing to having these types of conversations and seeing how he can make this a win-win for everybody.
Right, well, that was what I was, driving, that, we would benefit on both sides, the tax money and open space.
Absolutely, and I mean, I'd love to, find a way to somehow get to Spring Street, because then you're looping in a whole different possibilities.
Right, thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank
All
you.
right, good suggestion, Selectman Harrington. Selectman Lamothe.
Well, just my own knowledge, I'd just love, Nick, if you could tell me, how long have you owned this 17 acres and how long have you been trying to plan this event?
Well, so little bit of the history of it. So I set up the Saddleback, and that came out of a 400-acre piece that I bought back in the 70s, which is, all of I'm trying to even think of some of the names I've even forgotten, but anyways, we developed a good portion. I always kept this 17 acres. My fear was that if I weren't around and didn't keep this 17 acres in my family, some other developer might try to buy this property. And it was kind of designed that way. And I still kept probably 15 or so cows that I kept there with the barn, and thought I had set up the perfect scenario of Saddleback, 4 homes, being able to maintain the barns. And one person challenged it, and that's why there are no more animals out there. Otherwise, they would still be there. So the 17 acres has been in my family since the 70s, and it's currently still is. And I think it's now, my biggest fear was somebody trying to cram more houses in there than it should be. And I think we've got a good head start on what this property should look like.
Yep, very good. Thank you. Good work too.
Okay. So, Mike, we got a nice presentation from Mr. Bailey, gave us an understanding of what his intent is. Can we talk a little, Mike, do you mind giving us just a quick overview of, the other side of the perspective? We have this first right of refusal. We have some support letters from different, boards and committees in town, as well as some letters like I alluded to before from the Pawtucket Watershed, Blackstone Watershed, Charles Watershed, Conservation Open Space Planning Board. Can you give us just a perspective, Mike King, from, how much this is going to cost the town, what this would do to the CPA fund, the land purchase fund, if we were to do this, even with the money that might be on the table? And also, is the money that's being pledged, I'll use that word, to us, is it a guarantee? What does that process look like? I know I just threw a lot at you, so please feel free to do your best and we can always come back.
All right. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to provide a quick overview on the financial piece of this. It's been a couple of weeks since we last talked about it, and there's been a lot of developments on the financing side. So just to recap, through the work of the Open Space Committee, there have been 2 offers of possible financial assistance towards the 2095 West Street acquisition, which are outlined in the board's packet. The first is a commitment of $650,000 from the Pawtucket Water Supply Board, with the requirement of a conservation restriction and the granting of a right of first refusal to the Pawtucket Water Supply Board if the town were to proceed with the purchase of 2095 West Street and utilize the $650,000 from the Pawtucket. Additionally, the Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation, DCR, has issued a commitment letter of $500,000, which would also be contingent on the requirement of a conservation restriction. This was something that the town was planning to do anyways in terms of a conservation restriction, as that is a requirement of utilizing Wrentham's land acquisition fund. Because of the Pawtucket Water Supply Board requiring a right of first refusal, tentatively there is an article that will be placed on the June 2nd town meeting warrant to sell a right of first refusal to the Pawtucket Water Supply Board as part of this whole transaction. The reason being is this offer came forward after the May 12th town meeting warrant was finalized, and town council has ruled that the selling of a right of first refusal is outside the 4 corners of the article as it currently stands. So it will have to be addressed at the June 2nd town meeting. I'll note that these are planned commitments from these organizations, and most likely would be reimbursements to the CPC due to timing of the process involved in that. This is the right of first refusal, so you have a finite time to exercise right of first refusal, but you also have a closing period. The state, for example, has signaled that they would not have the $5,000 ready within the period of the closing, but would be more of a reimbursement process. That's the quick update, Mr. Chair. If there's anything that I missed from your initial request, please let me know and I'd be happy to address it.
Mr. King, I just point of clarification. You said 5,000. I think you meant
Oh,
500.
500,000. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. All right, let me open it up to the board members. I see Selectman Harrington waving his hand. I think he wants to say something. Selectman Harrington, let's start with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mike, can you explain specifically what Pawtucket Water's offer is? It 650,000 for a conservation restriction, and I don't understand the right of first refusal. What is?
So yeah, the right of first refusal. So it's a similar process that we're in right now with the chapter land that's coming out, in the town exercising its own right of first refusal. What the Pawtucket Water Supply Board is asking is that if in the future the town were to sell this conservation land, Pawtucket Water Supply Board would have the first option to purchase.
Okay. So so let me add to that. Did you read this? They put in the packet, they put a similar a letter that what they had done with Cumberland.
Correct.
So and that's basically the verbiage and language they're looking for. They're looking for a lot more than just a conservation restriction, and obviously a right of and if we put it in conservation, we can't turn around and sell it later anyway. But my understanding is that you can't take it out of CPC funds and out of conservation and to try and sell it.
You'd have to leave a conservation restriction on it. Not necessarily that you couldn't sell a conservation land.
Right. Okay. All right. So my understanding, but if you read through that, the language in that one from Cumberland, there's a lot to it.
Yes, and that process, I'll just note is Rhode Island law, right? In terms of their conservation restriction, although it mirrors a lot of Massachusetts.
Okay.
So we've already had discussions that Pawtucket Water Supply Board's legal counsel would have to work with our town council on the exact verbiage to make sure that it's agreeable.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Any further questions from you, Selectman Harrington?
No, not at this time.
Okay, let's go to Selectwoman Rouse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple follow-up questions, Mike. Can you talk a little bit about, so Mass Department of Conservation and Rec, DCR, right? That 500K. So that process, that's a commitment letter, but it's not a guarantee. So we wouldn't know until like approximately how long again, if we're awarded that or if it's going to go through?
So they are planning on this being part of their FY26 budget with funding in calendar year 2025. So that means earliest would be July. But I think in conversations with them, it would be more fall.
Okay.
Which would be outside the time that the town would have to borrow for this project.
So we would borrow and then it's not a guarantee, so it might not happen.
Correct.
Okay.
It's all contingent on their funding.
Okay. A little bit about the Pawtucket Water Supply Board. Tell me a little bit more about them. Do they have interest in other parts of Wrentham that they've ever mentioned? Has that come up before in terms of other areas that they would have funds to help and purchase with? Can you give me just a little bit more information about them?
Sure. So I had a conversation with a representative, and they are interested in collaborating with the town of Wrentham for preserving property, particularly in the west end of town, protecting the aquifer. One of the properties that they did mention was possibly looking at the land behind Station 2. That's going to be adjacent to Wrentham's up Newell. So Mr. Hassenjager sold one of two properties to the town of Wrentham. And then, I did ask that they possibly look at the Big Apple as a property as well. But, just generally speaking, their conversations is they were willing to have collaborative opportunities and evaluate them with the town to see what makes sense, and that they would be willing to provide funding if the right property was available.
Okay, thank you. No further questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Selectman Anderson,
No further questions. Thank you.
Selectman Lamoth,
Michael, do they want any other type of collaboration where, or maybe we already have this in play with where there would be water rights as well?
That didn't come up in any of our conversations. The Pawtucket Water Supply Board has specific funding, so contingent accounts that are just used for these kind of acquisitions to protect land in their area. In terms of water rights, they didn't specify those in particular. What they're looking for is to conserve land from development, but they are comfortable with passive recreation on that land.
Okay, thank you.
Good
That's all.
question. Anything else, Selectman Lamoth?
Good to go.
Okay. Mike, I know we invited some of the other boards and committees. Would it be prudent for us to hear from any of the other stakeholders? I want to be very careful before we do that about open meeting law violation, but under the appropriate guidance, would that add to the conversation? I'm just trying to give, as always, we try to give the residents as much information as possible so that they decide what's best for our town. What are your thoughts on that?
So I would say, based on the content and the fact that we've had several items in your packet that were provided directly by the Open Space Committee, it may be appropriate to hear from representatives from the Open Space Committee.
And if I'm not mistaken, isn't that Alan Selling? Is that correct?
Alan Selling and David Paulson.
Okay. Are both Alan and David on the call?
Yes.
Okay. Alan and David, would you like to address the board?
Yeah, I'd like to just make a couple of comments about.
Alan, hold on a sec. So just state your name and
Is it Alan Selling, 60 Farm Hill Road, Wrentham?
And what's your position on the
I'm the chair of the Open Space Committee.
Awesome. Sorry for that, and please go ahead, sir.
Okay, so the Pawtucket Water Supply Board already owns several large parcels of land behind Ellery Street and adjacent to Birchwood Farm. So they've already invested in protecting land in this part of town because it's part of the watershed that feeds their reservoir. So they're very interested in this parcel because it protects their water supply, basically. And the only reason that we're getting this offer is because of where it is physically. So we just want to, I don't know what happened here.
Okay.
So David, do you have anything more to add?
Well, and Alan, if I can ask you a question just based on that, are they concerned that a 15 home, I'll call it a subdivision, 15 home subdivision would have negative impacts on their water supply?
I think that they have funds available to them to protect open space in their watershed, and that's their job. That's what they do. And when an opportunity like this comes along, they take it because of the very competitive nature of buying open land in Massachusetts and Rhode Island now. I think they recently signed an agreement with Cumberland, almost 200 acres. I think David has more knowledge of this, but they're been very aggressive. I don't know if aggressive is the right word, but they've been proactive in protecting their watershed. And that we've just bought land in that same area, in that watershed, to build a new well. We'd be well advised to, consider that, protecting this area, because it's right now, all our wells are in the Charles River watershed, not in this one. The new one will be in this one.
No, that's a fair point. I think like Town Manager King alluded to, they could have interest in helping us potentially purchase and protect the other parcel from Hausenjäger behind Station 2, which would be directly adjacent to the new well that you're referring to. So that's interesting. Okay, thank you, Mr. Selling. Anything else?
That's all I have right now.
Thank you for coming and thank you for adding to the meeting. We appreciate your time. Mr. Paulson, how are you tonight?
Excellent. Thank you. Dave Paulson, Vice Chair of the Open Space Committee. Thanks so much.
Great.
Yeah, so this particular property is on a watershed divide. It's in the Charles, but primarily the Blackstone. I think it's important to note the Blackstone is heading towards a kind of impaired water body, which is obviously concerning. So whether it's a residential, commercial, private well, water quality, water volume is a factor. Hence why, we have the interests that are before us with particular water supply, as well as the open space value from DCR. And DCR, what's really competitive about that pot of money is that it is adjacent to their land. So they typically don't buy land isolated to itself. So it's really the connectivity to a mosaic of open space that makes it really intriguing to us as a committee, the partners who want to help preserve it, as well as the letters of support from the various groups and interests that are there. And so basically the funding is unique, right? And the nice thing is, just like with the CPC, the Pawtucket water supplies pot continues to grow over time. So this isn't like their only shot at buying land in Wrentham. It's like this won't be our only shot in the future with the model that the CPC has before us. And I think one thing that'll be evident at town meeting is being able to the full funding scenario, because the full price tag can be daunting, but when you break it into smaller bites with support from these various organizations, as well as what we have ourselves, plus how we can bond it either in the short term or long term, it really breaks it down into what I think is sustainable. I think that was one of the biggest charges that we had as a committee when putting our application together, was how do we have a sustainable ask for the community to invest in a property. It's been over 20 years since the town has invested in open space, and here's our opportunity to do that. So that's what I wanted to share.
All right, thank you. And the finances you're referring to, I think, were spelled out on, I think Mike King or our board alluded to that. After all of the contributions that are being brought before us, if I'm not mistaken, the CPC funds requested to be bonded would be about $750,000. Is that correct, Mike?
That is correct. That's assuming the town uses $600,000 from the conservation land acquisition, recreation land acquisition fund. That's $650,000 from the Pawtucket Water Supply Board commitment, and $500,000 from the Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation commitment. So when you put all those together, as utilizing funding sources on a $2.5 million purchase price, you're left with $750,000.
And talk to me about that $750,000, Mike. What would that, I've heard the expression that it would handcuff the CPC, from future land purchases for a decade, or, can you speak to that a little bit based on the current numbers, if all those funding sources come through?
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm asking the question the right way. Do you understand what I'm trying to ask?
So initially, when this came before CPC, the assumption was it's going to be borrowed 1.9 million over 10 years, and the annual debt service on that would be over $200,000, which would have a very significant impact on the CPC's ability to fund projects in the future. It would mostly take up a majority, if not all, of their funding for projects outside of their required 10% reserves for historical, recreation / open space, and community housing. I did run an analysis in regards to what would a $750,000 borrowing be over 10 years, and that would drop to about a $90,000 payment, debt service payment. So that's huge in terms of the impact to the CPC fund long term moving forward. But that's all contingent on those funding sources coming through.
Right. And if that's the case, not that $90,000 number that we just discussed, another piece of land comes. how much money would we have to throw at another purchase?
So if another property came up, for example, there wouldn't be $600,000 like there is now in the land acquisition fund.
Right.
I don't foresee, without speaking for the CPC committee, technically the ability for them to continue to fund that fund at $200,000 annually, like they have been the last several years. So you'd be looking at having to borrow again, depending on what the purchase price is.
Okay. So at this point, I'm going to open it back up to the board to see if anyone has any follow-up questions. I mean, there's no vote on this. This is strictly for informational purposes, right? Trying to get information to the voters and educate ourselves. So I'm going to open up to our board one more time to see if anyone has any questions for either Alan, David, Mr. Bailey, Mike King, and then we're going to move on. Board members.
I've got one for Michael.
Go ahead, Roy.
Michael, you have this land trust, Metacon land trust. What's the likelihood that they're going to come up with anything?
So Metacom Land Trust is not going to be coming through with a financial commitment.
Okay.
They support the project, but they will not be contributing financially.
So TBD is out.
Yeah, that's a recent development.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anybody else? Selectman Harrington?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to commend Alan and David for their hard work, reaching out for additional sources of funding. Shows how passionate they are for their project, and they think they should be recognized for their efforts.
I think you're right. Thank you, Alan, and thank you, David. You clearly have, the town's best interest in mind. Whether the townspeople approve or vote to buy this land or not, we appreciate it. We appreciate you looking out for the best interests of Wrentham.
Yeah.
Mike, this is just to clarify to the audience, this is not a public hearing, so we won't be taking direct questions from the audience, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Roy, did you raise your hand again?
No, we're good. Just
Selectman Anderson. Selectman Anderson, do you have anything else to add or ask?
Nothing further, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I think we've done a good job talking about this. I want to thank everyone involved. I want to thank Mr. Bailey. I want to thank everyone else from Open Space and all the other boards and commissions that played a part in this. I think now it's up to the townspeople to vote on 512, right? Okay, I'm being asked a couple of questions, Mike. I don't have time to in the chat. Do you mind having Amanda see if we're getting any questions in the chat that are relevant for us to talk here? I mean, I want to keep going unless it's very important for us to.
Mr. Chair, you could just remind the public that there's a public comment period later on in the agenda.
Thank you for that. Public, there is a public comment period later in our agenda. So if you have these wonderful questions, we would, not that we can really, engage with you specifically on them, but you can definitely ask them later on the public comment question. All right, we're going to move on. 512 is the vote, is the town meeting. What time does it start, Mike?
7 o'clock.
All right, KP High. Okay, let's move to the next agenda item. At this time, we're going to go to tab number 6, and please feel free to stay on the rest of the meeting. There's a lot of other great things to talk about. Tab number 6 is a vote to accept the provisions of Mass General Law 110G, the use of electronic signatures. We have some documentation in our packet about the CMR digital signatures acceptance, and I'd like to ask Mike King to give us a quick summary of what we'll be voting on at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If the Select Board accepts the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 110G, it will be able to utilize electronic signatures for more documents and situations than it does now. Digital electronic signatures will have the same weight and effect of wet signatures. So the board would be able to, for example, sign with electronic signatures documents that are recorded at the Registry of Deeds, town meeting warrants, town meeting election warrants, collective bargaining agreements, etc. And moving forward, the board also would not need to specify whether they are using electronic signatures or wet signatures on some of their votes.
All right, thank you for that summary. Do any of the board members have any questions for Mr. King before we take a vote? I'm not seeing anyone raise their hand. So at this time, the chair would entertain a motion. Let me read it how it's stated. The select board hereby recognizes and accepts the provisions of Mass General Laws 110G regarding electronic signatures, and that its members will henceforth execute documents either with electronic signatures or with wet ink signatures, and that both will carry the same legal weight and effect.
So moved.
Second.
So motion made by Selectman Anderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Selectwoman Rouse. Any further discussion? Being none, Selectwoman Rouse,
Yes.
Selectman Anderson,
Anderson's a yes.
Selectman Harrington,
Harrington, yes.
Selectman Lamoth,
Lamoth, yes.
Gallo, yes. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, that's great. We'll move to tab 7. Okay, so tab 7, this is we're looking for a recommendation for one of our board members to step up and to represent us to the General Bylaw Review Committee. Mike, can you just give us a quick overview of what this committee does? I believe it's an appointment by the town moderator, if I'm not mistaken. How often do they meet? Is it a heavy lift, etc.?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So the General Bylaw Review Committee is appointed by the town moderator. I've spoken with the moderator, and he was in agreement that the select board could recommend a member to represent the select board on the General Bylaw Committee. There is a seat reserved on the committee through the town's bylaws for a select board member. The General Bylaw Review Committee meets before town meeting to review any changes to the town bylaws being proposed and makes a recommendation. So generally speaking, we have, this year's obviously been an outlier, but 2 town meetings, one in the fall and in the spring. And if there is any articles being proposed, and sometimes there is not, regarding the town's general bylaws, the committee would meet and then make those recommendations to the town meeting.
All right, thank you. So, here I am just thinking about this aloud. It seems like a relatively light lift. It seems like, this could be a way for one of our newer members to really get to understand some additional
I think somebody's getting railroaded.
information about the town. I think, geez, that's just kind of I'm just throwing it out there. I will say, Roy, every new member's been thrown under the bus. You can ask Bill Harrington. He's still paying his. And we all, have other boards and committees or projects that we're working on. Except for Jim Anderson, basically, he was huge with 350. He did a ton for them and does a lot of other stuff as well. So, not that I'm going to force you to do anything, because I never would do that, nor could I. I'd like you to give this a little consideration, Selectman Lamoth. Mike,
How long do you want me to sit on that?
Well, that's a good
10
question.
seconds, 30 seconds.
Mike, how long can we let Selectman Lamoth ponder this?
Typically, a committee appointments for 3 years.
No, but when does he have to make a decision?
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, would it be appropriate if I made a motion?
Yeah, look at that.
Listen,
Yeah.
you can make whatever motion you want, but before you do, I just want to ask Mike, if Roy needed time to think about it, how much time, if any, could we give him before we needed to make a decision and a vote? Could he have till next meeting, or do we need to vote tonight?
Tonight would be preferable, just due to the fact that your next meeting would be less than 2 weeks before town meeting, where the General Bylaw Review Committee would need to be making recommendations.
Let's giddy up. I got to take my beat and let's go.
All right. I think Selectman Harrington wanted to make a motion.
Yeah, I think.
So Mr. Chair, make a motion to appoint Selectman Roy Lamoth to the select board representative for the General Bylaw Review Committee.
So moved.
All right, so we had a motion made by Selectman Harrington and a second by Selectman Anderson. Very lighthearted, of course. Any further discussion? We're not going to give Roy a chance. Being none, we'll take a roll call. We'll take a roll call vote. Selectwoman Rouse.
Rouse, yes.
Selectman Anderson.
Anderson's a definite yes.
Selectman Harrington.
Harrington, yes.
Selectman Lamar.
Chairman, can I have another? Yes.
Chris Gallo, yes. Motion carries 5-0. Thanks for being a great sport, Roy. And I'm telling you, it's not that heavy of a lift, so you'll do
All
great.
right, let's go.
All right, moving on. Okay, it looks like it's time in the year to go over the one-time revenue recs. What this is, everyone, is what every year we go through this and we have one-time revenue utilization recommendations. And in our packet, we have a memo regarding the one-time revenue utilization recommendations. And it's from our town manager, Mike King. Mike, we don't need to go through this. The board, I'm sure, has had plenty of opportunity to review this. Can you just kind of give us a high-level summary, anything that you think we should, pay special attention to? And then I'll let the board ask individual questions as they want if they have any questions. And please feel free to talk to us about the use of free cash to balance the budget as well.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is an annual memo that the town manager puts forward to the select board in advance of town meeting, outlining recommendations involving both the use of free cash and retained earnings that will end up taking place as motions under the stated articles on June 2nd. So a couple of things that I just did want to point out. The first of which is the town's use of free cash to balance the budget has been decreasing annually. And to date, since FY 2023, the town is using $450,000 less in free cash than it did several years ago. That's an improvement. We're seeing a lot of communities as budgets get tighter, actually going in the opposite direction, where they're having to use free cash to balance their budget. And Wrentham is in a fortunate financial position where it's actually been able to decrease over successive years the amount of free cash or one-time revenue to balance the operating budget. Additionally, there are commitments outlined for the deposits of free cash to the General Stabilization Fund to continue to keep it at 5% of the FY26 operating budget. This is something that the town worked on for several years to get it up to the 5%. And there's a commitment to continue to do so, as it is a recommended best practice by the Mass Municipal Association. Additionally, there's a deposit to the Capital Stabilization Fund to offset significant capital purchases in the future. One that comes to mind immediately is the DPW building, to help make that a less of an impact to the taxpayers when that comes forward for a future vote in the fall. And lastly, on terms of free cash, there are some capital items outlined, but I'd just like to point out that there is a balance that's going to be left unappropriated and to migrate to next year's free cash certification, which is similar to the amount that was left previously at the close of FY24. So that's really the high level around free cash. I'd be happy to answer any questions specifically about the memo at this time, or even as a follow-up later on.
And that's a great point, Mike, right? We can definitely talk about any questions that the board might have tonight, but they can definitely feel free to reach out to you and I with more in-depth follow-up questions. They want to dive into one particular line item, we'd be happy to do that at another time as well, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so why don't we go ahead and open it up to the board members and see if anyone has any questions regarding this for Town Manager Mike King. Let's start. I am gonna go through the list this time. Selectwoman Rouse, do you have anything to add?
No, it was very well laid out and very descriptive by Mike King. So thank you. No further questions at this time.
And I do want to just say I'm happy that we continue to strive towards reducing our utilization on free cash to balance the budget, Mike. As you know, that's a goal. It's been a goal of our board and the taxpayers. So that continues to show the astute fiscal conservative, just the fact that we're being very fiscally conservative, and we are just doing a really good job with these budgets. So I just want to say that. Selectwoman Rouse, thank you for that. Selectman Anderson?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm very familiar with the process, so I have no further questions.
Thank you, sir. Selectman Harrington?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. No, it was laid out very well. Nothing at this time. Thank you.
Great. Selectman Lamothe, this is the first time you might be looking at one of these. Do you have any follow-up questions or comments?
Looking at the water system improvements and all of that money going there, having spoken with Brian, will these projects for water feed improvements be taking place soon, or are they already in place?
So one of the projects is chemical feed improvements.
Yeah.
Yeah, we once that's funded, we'd like to institute that as soon as possible.
All right, so this transfer will result in the funding for these programs.
They will.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, great question. Okay, so Mike, that's it for that. There's obviously no vote. There's no motion, right?
Yeah, this is informational for the board. This will also be communicated to the finance committee as well, for their review.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, next we got a big one. We're gonna review and vote to sign the June 2nd, 2025 annual spring town meeting warrant. We've had, we asked and we really appreciate, I just want to mention the following people taking time out of their busy schedule to be with us tonight in case we have any questions. We have our Rachel Benson, who's the Director of Planning and Economic Development, specifically to, if we need her to talk about Articles 25 and 26 when we get there. Thank you for being here, Rachel. We have Tom Maloney, who's the new chairman of our planning board. He could talk about Article 26 as needed. Thanks for being here, Tom, and congratulations on the chairmanship. We have Bill Casbara, Zoning Board of Appeals Chair. Bill, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. We have Rob Scotton, our Principal Assessor, here with us. Rob, we really appreciate you taking the time to be here as well. And we also have Bill McGrath, Chief of Police, who is going to potentially can talk about one of the articles. But before we get to the Bill's articles, there's been some information that we'll share later on. And I think we're actually going to, he's going to do a motion not to move one of the articles, and we can get into that afterwards. So in Joe Botash fashion, our beloved former chair, Joe always taught me that you read the warrant, you call out the article numbers, and then you let the board members say stop or hold, and then I write down what articles you want to go back to. So in doing so, I think it's a great system. We're going to move pretty quickly through them, but if you want me to stop or hold, we'll come back to those articles and we'll ask the necessary policy expert on the call with us to help as needed. Is that okay with the board? Okay. Article 1. Remember, if you want me to hold, just say hold, and I'll write it down to hold. Article 2. Article 3. Article 4.
Hold.
All right, so that's 4, and that's Bill. Okay, Article 5. Article 6. Did I hear a hold from the board? No. And I would ask everyone else, if you're not a direct member of the board, please keep your mic muted just to keep us moving here. Article 6. Article 7. Article 8. Article 9. Article 10. Article 11. Article 12. And I have a note here about Article 13. Article 13, Mike, we're going to pull this article, correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so don't ask me about Article 13 because we're pulling it. Article 14.
Hold.
All right. Is that Bill again?
Yes.
Okay. Article 15. Article 16. Article 17. Article 18. Article 19. Article 20. Article 21. Article 22. Article 23. Article 24. That's a long one. Is that the ADU one?
That's 25.
Where the heck is? Okay, yeah, sorry, guys, I couldn't, Article 25.
Hold.
Oh,
We had Bill and another person, good. Roy, maybe? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Article 25, yep, that's a long one. Let me scroll through. Article, there we go, Article 26. We're pulling Article, oh, no, we're not. Article 27, I'm being told, right, Mike, the citizen is not gonna move this at the floor. He's gonna, motion to postpone.
And that is my understanding, Mr. Chair. And I just would like to point out a difference. The reason that one of the earlier articles could be pulled and this article can't be pulled, even though the citizen would like, it sounds, will not want it to possibly move forward, is that once a citizen's petition reaches the requisite signatures, it needs to be placed on the warrant compared to
Okay.
some of the articles that the select board submits, where you have the
Understood.
authority to pull.
All right, thank you for the clarification. So Article 27, we were not gonna talk about because it's our understanding it won't be moved at town floor, town meeting floor. And Article 28.
Hold.
Okay, 28. Okay, let's get back to it. Let's start with Article 4. Who is the let me go back to Article 4. Who's the policy expert on Article 4? Is that you, Mike, through the Finance Committee?
Yeah, I can handle Article 4.
Okay, Bill, go ahead.
My question is just, were they not received in a timely fashion? Or why are we paying last year's bills? And it's for FY 24?
Yeah, so these are two bills from the town clerk that were received towards the end of the prior fiscal year. As you know, once the fiscal year closes, we can't pay these prior year bills unless there's a town meeting authorization, which is now being sought.
So in FY 24, there was a couple left over from 23. By chance, are they the same company? Or is it, would you know by chance?
So they're both from LHS Associates, which is a company the town clerk does business with. I believe you're referring to last year. The town clerk also had prior bills. I believe they are the same vendor.
All right. Thank you. Is there any, I mean, it's short money, but it's just like, can we send them a letter and tell them, get the bills in time or something?
No, I agree with you. I know there was some issues last time around with electronic versus physical mail billing and not receiving them.
Right.
But the town clerk has submitted these that they have come in, and we're unable to pay them at this time without town meeting.
Yeah, no worries. It seems to be a pattern with this particular company for some reason. That was all. Appreciate it. Thank you.
And hey, good question, Bill. How common is this, Mike, to have to do this in your experience in municipalities? Is this very common?
Yeah, it really depends on the community. I would say that Wrentham has made a lot of efforts to clamp down on prior year bills and get them in a timely manner. Here you only see a handful. You might go to another community and see large amounts of prior year bills, multiple town meetings throughout the year.
Okay. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Next is Article 14. I believe that was also Bill Harrington.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chip. So Mike, that's the first payment of how many payments?
So this is
5?
So this is actually to authorize for a borrowing, and we do have Chief Marino on the call. So we are in need of having to think about procuring a new pumper for the fire department. What we're doing is we know the need, and we also know the delivery timeline. So if we get approval to order a Class A pumper, we're not going to see that for up to 4 years. And we have and Tony, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we have a 1994 pumper that's getting up there in age.
Yes, it's actually the original Pierce pumper from 1994. It's in fair condition. I'm not sure if it's going to outlast the 2013 pumper that we have, but you know, the way the procurement is going, there's no guaranteed pricing. There's the whole tariff thing. It's hard to gauge exactly what and when we're going to get it. Our 5-year-old truck has incurred over $30,000 in repairs in the last 18 months. So by the time we get this, the 5-year-old truck will be 10 or 11 years old, and will be put into second due status, and either the 2013 or the 1994 truck will roll off into reserve status.
So am I to understand we are not buying one? We don't know how much we're going to pay for it. We don't know how much the payments are going to be, but we're asking for a chunk of money to do it.
We're looking for the authorization to purchase. We've done this with the ambulances. We're still waiting for an ambulance that we ordered 2.5 years ago. So the authorization to purchase or lease gives us the ability to. We have we have quotes. We have a general idea, but the actual funding source won't need to be determined until receipt of the truck or until we secure a lease.
So we don't even know how much we're asking for, just a sum of money.
Well, right now, Class A pumper is running anywhere between $1 and $1.2 million unequipped. That's the going price today.
Okay, so Mike, question from Mike. Don't you think we should be having appropriate the sum of 1.9 million for a future purchase, or this is kind of an open-ended a sum of money to buy a truck in 3 to 5 years. I don't like the way it's written.
Let me add to that. What is the protocol? How we typically would write an article like this, Mike? Because I also understand Selectman Harrington's concern. We're very, we know Chief Marino does an amazing job, and we trust that he's very, very wise with the money that he spends. But just to be able to report back to the taxpayers, as we like to do, the accountability. Is it typical for this kind of blank check article, or is it more like? Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, no, I'll just clarify. So this is the article is written, then there's going to be a motion, and the motion's going to put a cap.
Okay.
So which would be the pumper price as it is now. The issue that we're having is that we know there's a need, and we know that there's 4 years down the line where we might see this pumper, right? And what we're doing here is we're asking for town meeting approval to be able to order one. And we can borrow for it. What I would recommend is that we actually start to set money aside moving forward, because we do have a capital stabilization fund, right? And you can continue to put money aside for that.
Through the ambulance receipts?
It wouldn't be ambulance receipts necessarily, because this would be for fire use on the fire service side, but you can set aside free cash. I've seen communities, and this is what I did in a prior community, is we actually established a separate stabilization fund just to fund the pumper. So we knew how much it cost, and we said, we're 4 years out. Let's put aside 1/4 each year, right? And that way, when the time comes, you're not even borrowing. You know it's coming, but you have the money ready.
But Mike, just to clarify, this is like you said. There will be a motion, a follow-up motion that will put a maximum price on top.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
We'll be able to vote on.
Right. So through you, Mr. Chair, and again, I agree. Tony does a great job. I appreciate everything he does. It's just like I don't like the verbiage in this. I think it should be clarified that we're just looking for authorization to engage a company to buy a truck in the future or something. To appropriate a sum of money, to me, just seems like it's an open-ended. We don't know what we're buying and how much it's going to be.
So,
and then the motion could be to set aside, $150,000 a year for future purchase of said truck or something.
So I'll just clarify, this is the same article format that we use for the ambulance 2+ years ago. And we did clarify in the motion, to your point, Selectman Harrington, because you got to put a dollar amount, right? You can't just say you want to purchase a pumper, right? You got to put in a dollar amount, but that I think that's a lot of times where we see with the warrant versus the report to voters, which has all the motions in it, which is really what is the binding amount. This is to the warrant in this case is to tell the voters that we're considering a Class A pumper. And then we're going to have a report to voters that says, this is the amount, this is the motion, these are the restrictions on it, and that's the process.
Okay.
And they'll see the dollar amount in the motion, and they'll be able to vote yay or nay at town meeting.
Okay.
Selectman Harrington, does that make you feel better about that?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No problem. I think it's a great question. So, okay. The next one.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, who is that?
Chief Marino.
Oh, sorry, Chief.
Hey, no worries. Yeah, just a point of clarification to reiterate what Mike said. This is the same exact verbiage that we've used since I've been the chief for 2 ambulances now, 3 leases, the lease purchase for our current engine that's paid off. I think we just paid off that truck this year. So this is nothing out of the ordinary. I know there's not a number there right now, but again, this is the warrant just trying to explain, we need to purchase this, and then, all the pricing and all the quotes are done. Mike has a number, has a quote, and that will be part of the package, just like the rest of the financials for the for the rest of the FY26 budget and capital.
Yep. No, that's great, Chief. We appreciate that. And I think it's just every once in a while, it's important for us to re-go through these to make sure that everyone understands them. We have a new selectman here, and this might be the first time he's looking at it. So he could have had a question of it as well. So I appreciate the clarification, appreciate the question from Selectman Harrington. I think we're all in agreement and ready to move forward. Any further discussion on that, anybody, before we move on?
I'm just going to say that when we get into the meeting, and if we do hear constituents asking that what the price of what the process is, we might want to change the wording next time around to make it more clear, because if we have questions, so do our constituents.
Yeah, I think what he's saying though, Roy, is that when the voters get their packet at town meeting, the report to voters, it will actually have the motion in it that will have the dollar amount that we're asking the townspeople to spend. This is just to get it on the warrant so that Mike, and correct me if I'm speaking out of school here. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're spot on.
Okay.
They get the warrant at town meeting, but we also post it online in advance if people do want to read up on what these motions are going to be.
But you're right.
And then finance committee needs to recommend it too.
Right.
So that's an extra step as well.
So I guess what we're saying is there's going to be plenty of opportunity for people to know the exact dollar amount and be educated before they vote. But point well taken. Any further discussion on that before we move on? All right, the next item we had a hold on was Article 25. Article 25, is that the ADU one? Okay.
Yep.
So Article 25 is the ADU one. Mike, I believe I'm looking at ZBA Chairman Bill Caspara, and I believe we also have Rachel on as well. Bill, what is your question? And go ahead, Selectman Harrington.
Yeah, through Mr. Chair, my only question was, is all of the verbiage in this changing it, realigning it with the packet that we received earlier? Is it just updating?
Yes, Mr. Harrington, I can answer that. Currently, we have an accessory dwelling unit bylaw, and there was legislation enacted, the Affordable Homes Act, that went into effect February 2nd. So there's a law in effect. It had some language in it that we've this bylaw, the amendment, we're adopting the language and putting it into our existing bylaw so that we're in alignment, that we comply with the bylaw. That's all it really is. It's been vetted by town council to make sure it's accurate. And Ms. Benson was great. She took that and massaged it and put it into the bylaw. So we do comply, and we're updating our existing bylaw. So we're good to go.
That's good. Yeah,
So-
thank you for the clarification. That packet that I'm not sure who sent it out with you or it was Rachel. That was really, really well put together and very informative. Thank you.
Yeah, I couldn't have done it without Rachel's help. She was great. So we'll comply fully with the act, and thank goodness we already had the accessory dwelling units, which was close to it. So we're good to go. So
Thank
we just
you.
ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Selectman Harrington. Thank you, Mr. Caspara, and thank you, Rachel. Bill, does that answer your question? And did anyone
Yeah,
else?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
I thought I heard another board member yell hold on this article. Does anyone else?
Well,
It was
Michelle,
me. It was me. It was the same question that Bill had.
Look at that. Great minds
Think alike.
And,
Roy-
and my
Roy, go ahead.
question is simply, had I been on this committee, I would have been able to inform you about what the changes might be already, right?
Yes,
Yeah, there you go. So,
absolutely.
any question, we just rolled by this thing.
We're looking
right.
forward to that moving
Yeah,
forward.
there you go.
Selectman Lamar.
Efficiency at play. Go ahead,
Yes.
let's go.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions for our ZBA chairman while we have him here? Or are we good to move? Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for attending the meeting. It looks like we've done a great job answering our questions, and thank you to you and Rachel and the rest of the team that put that together for us.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. See you later, Bill. All right. Next, was there a hold on 28? No hold on 28. Or is our chief here? Is Chief McGrath on the call? No, he got off. Okay. I think that was withdrawn. So we're good to go. Does anyone have any other questions on these articles before we vote?
Chris, I'm sorry, Mike, 27 and 28 are withdrawn?
No.
No, I'm sorry.
27, let me get back to that. 27, Bill, the citizen petition is going to motion to indefinitely suspend on the floor, we're being told. 28 is still happening. And I thought Bill was still on the call, and I thought we had a hold, but it looks like.
I am on the call.
Oh, hey, Bill.
Hi.
Hey, Chief. How are you?
Good.
So, Chief, do you mind just giving the board just a quick a summary, high level, 2-minute of Article 28?
So Article 28 would be,
It was the real estate tax.
the real estate tax. Yes. So essentially, the big picture here is, as everyone knows, we lost our deputy chief at 44 years old, and he has a young family. And since then, I mean, the community's been great about rallying around him, but we're looking at a long kind of a future that's somewhat in question especially for the young kids. So the exemption from taxation would basically, I can read it, it's very brief. It's notwithstanding any general or specific law to the contrary, commencing with fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025, the assessors of the town of Wrentham may exempt from taxation under Chapter 59 of the general laws the real estate owned by and occupied as the domicile of the surviving spouse until remarried of George C. Labonte, a former deputy chief of the Wrentham Police Department and resident of the town of Wrentham, who died on August 12th, 2024. And Section 2, the act shall take effect upon its passage. So it's pretty simple. It would exempt them from their property tax.
Okay,
I did, you know, I brought this forward, the citizens petition, and I did confer with the town manager about the potential costs. And on this particular one, the potential costs were negligible. They were, can't even be calculated up to $1 per household if it were to pass. When I submitted, well, should I speak about the other one or just hold it to this right now?
no, I would hold it to this one, Chief.
Okay.
Do you have anything else to add, or is that done? Are you done with the explanation of this article?
Well, the explanation is, I mean, I anticipate people might look at it and wonder about what if someone else were to face a similar tragedy as this family did. And my response to that, because I've been asked it, so I might as well just throw it out right up front.
Sure.
My response to it is pretty simple. I would do the same, especially when you consider the minimal impact. I would do this and hope if there were 20 families that faced a similar circumstance, young children, uncertain future, you know, pretty dramatic loss of income following the death of the breadwinner, so to speak, I would get behind it, whether they were a private citizen or a public citizen. I think for all the things we do with our tax dollars, this would be one of the ones I'd charge forward and do for anybody facing a similar situation. You know, as an example, if you were going to paint the worst case scenario and say 20 families, which is unthinkable, I hope, faced a similar set of circumstances, it would be less than $20 a year impact. I don't think, and I hope that that would never happen, but I'm just putting it out there as an example. So I'm hoping that this gets supported. And I have, as you mentioned earlier in the meeting, good reason to not go forward with the other one. And that's about all I have to say.
All right, Chief.
And welcome any questions.
Yep. Thank you for that, Chief. I don't think even, I think it wasn't even held, so I don't know that there's any questions from the board. If the board has any questions, please let me know right now if anyone wants to ask the chief a question about this. I have a question for Mike King. Mike, let's talk through this. It gets presented at town meeting, right? The voters voted in. Can you walk us through what that looks like? Does this take effect immediately? You know, how does that work? If you don't mind, Mike King, just a quick.
Sure. So this is a home rule petition, which means that it would then have to be submitted to the state legislature. So it'd have to be passed by both the House and the Senate and signed into law by the governor. I can just say from my own experience, home rule petitions can sometimes take years before they're even passed. So just to know that this isn't town meeting passes this article and then the exemption goes into effect for this tax bill. It still has a whole process with the legislature that could in fact be elongated and could be over multiple sessions of the general court.
I think that's fair. I just want to set expectations that if this is approved, it doesn't, it's not going to take effect automatically. And I personally think, while we're on the topic, I don't mind sharing this with my fellow board members and fellow citizens. I personally think we should be, whether this gets approved or not, I would like to see us do something else in addition to this, whether it's approved or not. I think I'd like to see a group of good citizens, rally behind the family and almost, I don't know, can we form some kind of a foundation? Can we get pledges from people at town meeting? I'll be the first one right now to pledge a contribution annually to help make sure that this family's tax bill is paid, because I understand the stress and I understand the financial burden. I understand the loss of income, and I don't want to see this family have to uproot and leave the community. So I'm going to recommend something like that, I believe, at town meeting as well. Not asking for anyone to support me, not asking for anyone to contribute. I just think for me anyway, I think it's the right thing to do. So I just want you board members to be aware of that. Okay. Anyone have anything else they want to share before we move on relating to this topic? I'm seeing no heads. Okay. Mike, at this time, it looks like we need to take a vote. I'm going to scroll back to the top. And here we go. At this time, so we're going to vote. Where's the motion? Here it is right here. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the June 2nd, 2025 annual spring town meeting warrant and to authorize the use of electronic signatures.
So
So
moved.
moved.
So moved.
Motion made by Selectman Anderson, second by Selectman Harrington. Any further discussion? Being none, we'll do a roll call vote. Selectwoman Rouse,
Rouse, yes.
Selectman Anderson,
Anderson's a yes.
Selectman Harrington,
Harrington, yes.
Selectman Lamothe.
Lamoffey, yes.
Gallo, yes. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, that's Article 9. Article 10, update on the MBTA communities. Mr. King, can you give us a quick update on the MBTA communities if we have one, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So just a quick update. The towns of Duxbury, Wenham, and Weston have filed complaints in Superior Court relative to the MBTA Communities Act, similar to Wrentham. Wenham is being represented by Attorney Jay Talman, who is also representing the town of Wrentham, and the towns of Duxbury and Weston are being represented by KP Law, who previously represented the town of Middleborough in similar litigation before the Superior Court. They settled before the hearing. All cases have been consolidated before Judge Gilday for hearings, who also was the judge who heard Wrentham's hearing at the beginning of April. That's the only update right now in terms of MBTA, Mr. Chair.
Anyone have any questions for the town manager regarding MBTA communities? No, I see none. No. Okay, let's move on. No vote needed. Let's move on. This is tab 11. So this is a public comment section. So residents who wish to participate in public comment will be allotted 2 minutes to speak and must state their name and address for the record. At the start of the comment, a timer will be sent via message from Amanda Vazapolo, our executive assistant. It should be visible on the top of the screen. An alarm will chime when the time is up. Again, allotted 2 minutes. Speak, state name and address. And board members, we're not allowed to engage with public comment. Someone makes fun of your glasses, Selectman Harrington, our job is to smile and shake our head and say thank you. All right. So at this time, let's open it up to public. Not that that would ever happen because you look so handsome and intelligent. But at this time, let's open it up to public comment. I see someone clapping, but I don't know if they want to talk.
Hi, that was me. I didn't mean to clap. I was trying to raise my hand. Good evening. This is Barbara Lestage, and my husband and I have lived at 360 Spring Street for over 20 years now. I heard about this issue of the buying the land and the special town meeting by accident. And I'm a little surprised because I would have thought that anytime there is a town-wide meeting at which all residents are allowed to vote, there should be some sort of a legal requirement to send out a notice to the residents. And so I'm just wondering how you feel about that. And I assume there is no legal requirement since nothing has been done.
So Mike, I mean, I can't engage, right? I want to engage.
I'll just make the comment that
Okay.
that the town does not have a legal obligation to send a mailer to every household, and has not done so during my time here for any town meeting. But we can definitely take that under advisement.
Okay, I'm just surprised, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Barbara, for your comment. Mike, I think we should add that. I want to clarify that comment when I can at a future agenda, on a future agenda at a future meeting.
I'll make a notation.
All right, thank you. Anyone else like to say anything? And thank you, Barbara. We appreciate your comment. Appreciate you being a resident taxpayer, and your feedback is important to us. Anyone else? Give you a chance. Okay. Looks like the public comments is over. It looks like we're going to go to tab 12, which is our town manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to start by a reminder that water rates are set to increase by 6% on this upcoming July 1st. There was a water rate study conducted and presented by Ty and Bond to the Select Board. and it was noted that it had been several years since the water rates were last increased. The select board voted to increase water rates of 6% for FY26, 8% for FY27, and 10% for FY28, with the condition that the rates be reviewed again in 2 years before the implementation of the FY28 increase. These rate increases incorporate funding for capital improvements to the town water system, and the rates continue to remain below other comparable communities. I also have an update on the Wrentham Community Electricity Program. The town reviewed bids last week and awarded a 29-month contract to Dynegy. Dynegy's bid came in below the current National Grid basic service rates. The program is now poised to launch in July, and Wrentham residents will now have electricity options that offer stable prices that do not change for 29 months. The program's timing positions Wrentham well for future collaboration, as there is a group of nearby communities who will also be renewing when the current contract term ends. Wrentham could then possibly join with that group's renewal, maximizing future competitive opportunities. And lastly, I'd like to note that there is an employee benefits fair scheduled for tomorrow at the Senior Center from 1 to 4. It will be a great opportunity for employees to learn more about their health insurance options with the transition to the Southeastern Massachusetts Health Group. That concludes my update, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. Just one point of clarification. I did receive 1 to 2 phone calls about the water rates. And so, like you said, I just want to go on record to say, we, per what we voted as a board, we have the right to review in 2 years before the 10% increase is applied, correct?
That is correct.
And even with the increases that we have set right now, it's our understanding, Mike, that Wrentham is still below all of the other surrounding communities with regard to water rate.
We've looked at comparable communities, and yes, Wrentham, even 3 years down the road, would still be lower.
All right, thank you. Anything else? Does anyone have any questions or comments for the town manager relating to the town manager report? Okay, with that said, if there's no comment, I'm going to turn the meeting over to our beloved Selectman Anderson.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
how's it feel being chairman today?
Jimmy, it's fantastic, buddy.
Terrific, bud. Well, you're doing a great job, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. I appreciate you too.
But with your permission, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made. Okay, motion was made by Selectman Anderson, second by Selectwoman Rouse. Any further discussion? Being none, we'll do a roll call vote. Selectwoman Rouse?
Rouse, yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Harrington?
Harrington, yes.
Lamoth?
Moth, yes.
Gallo, yes. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you guys and girls for your awesome efforts. Have a great night, everybody.
You as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Bill, we look like Darth Vader.